Next, we'll hear a presentation from Ms. Jamee Cook from the Breast Implant Victim Advocacy, who will speak on what patients who have had breast implants think that patients contemplating breast implants should know. Ms. Cook.
Good morning. My name is Jamee Cook. I traveled here today from Texas. I have no financial conflicts of interest. I'd like to thank Dr. Asher and the panel for inviting me to speak today on behalf of harmed patients. I got PIP breast implants in Dallas in 1998. I remember my doctor telling me about local complications, capsular contracture, rupture, necrosis, etc. That was the extent of the warnings. I was a paramedic and I was active. Within 3 to 4 years, I developed chronic fatigue and autoimmune disease. Other symptoms were swollen lymph nodes, recurrent fever, brain fog, and more. My life was greatly affected by my illness. My doctors told me that nothing could be found to explain my health problems, that I was just a tired mom, and I was getting older. I was 24, so I knew it was not my age. In 2012, my textured saline implant ruptured. I did not have the money to replace or remove it for 3 years. During that period, I developed arm and hand numbness and recurrent migraines. Upon removal in 2015, most of my symptoms went away immediately. I still battle autoimmune disease, but my life is so much better. Several of us founded Breast Implant Victim Advocacy to help raise awareness of illness and complications that can arise from both silicone and saline breast implants, including BIA-ALCL. We've now met with the FDA on 3 separate occasions. We work with many other organizations and patient support groups. My story isn't as bad as the stories we hear every single day, and it's not going to be as bad as the ones you will hear today and tomorrow. I don't even feel sometimes like my story is important anymore because the issue is so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger than even the patients in this room. We just hope to represent the women the way that they deserve. I stand today representing thousands of women. We have quite a few here. I'd like to ask all of the BIA-ALCL patients to just quietly stand. Ladies and gentlemen, these women supposedly represent 1% of this rare disease population. Please listen to them as they share their firsthand experience of what most of you have only read about. Now, if I could ask all the women who have been harmed by breast implants or those who know someone harmed to stand. Not all will speak at this meeting, but they come in solidarity today to say enough is enough. Travel was a financial burden for many of them, but being physically present was important. Many are too ill to travel. We speak for them. We are their voices. Thank you. I was asked to try to address what do you believe patients need to know prior to implantation. This is complex, but what I will emphasize is I was not warned. Most ladies we speak to were not warned about most of the risks that we will discuss. There are tens of thousands of women on social media, and many tell us that the manufacturer's pamphlets were never provided. Most women say they were not well informed. What can you do to change that? Breast implants are not lifetime devices. The FDA states that breast implants are not meant to last forever. However, some plastic surgeons say otherwise, as you can see on this website. Many women are told breast implants may last a lifetime. They tell us that newer, more cohesive implants won't rupture because you can cut them in half and nothing will happen. We've even seen videos of doctors running over breast implants with cars to show how strong they are. But the human body is a very different environment, so true informed consent should be clear that repeat surgeries are likely and expensive because the devices don't last forever, some just a few years. This is a 6-year-old Mentor silicone implant on the right with a scar capsule on the left. This patient had 3 different sets and capsular contracture twice. Her list of symptoms was very long. She explanted in 2017 and her health greatly improved. These are 2-year-old Mentor silicone implants, 2 years. How many revision surgeries would she have needed if she hadn't explanted in 2017? Maintenance follow-up and complications. These data are from the Mentor PMA in March 2005. Allergan statistics are similar. FDA-approved breast implants on the basis of these very high complication rates, even in the first 3 years. Are patients made aware of these rates? I don't believe so. This is an example of capsular contracture, which can be extremely painful. These textured silicone implants were just under 3 years old. They show fluid buildup and capsular contracture. Fluid was aspirated and tested. Additional testing was done at the time of explant. The FDA points out that in most cases, neither you nor your surgeon will be able to find evidence of rupture by a physical examination. Breast MRIs are recommended after the first 3 years and then every 2 years from that point on. Many patients tell us they were never told to undergo MRIs to check for rupture. MRIs can cost more than $2,000, and often insurance will not cover an MRI to check for rupture. Many women undergo mammography to check for rupture instead, but FDA's own research shows that can cause implants to leak. Shouldn't the FDA require studies to determine if sonograms can be a more affordable alternative to MRIs to check for silent rupture? This patient had an ultrasound and 2 MRIs that could not conclude whether she had a rupture. For that reason, she did not get insurance coverage for the removal. It was not until explant surgery that they found the rupture. Health insurance often isn't helpful. Treatment of complications from breast implants is often not covered by health insurance, even if the woman is very sick. This includes removal. Health insurance denial can prevent monitoring or radiological screening. Many women we know in support groups simply cannot afford to remove their breast implants, and insurance will not pay. There was a very large explant assistance fund, but it was so overwhelmed this last year with desperate patients that they quickly ran out of funding. When these women seek help and there is none, they can get desperate. It feels like no one will listen and no one will help. We get emails from women asking if we have any resources to help them. We have to tell these women that they have very few options. These are some of the statements from our women. Chemical transparency. Breast implant materials are secret. Plastic surgeons can tell you if the implant is filled with silicone gel or saline, but they can't elaborate beyond that. We have reached out to the FDA and surgeons over the last few years to ask for an ingredient list, but haven't received one. The FDA wrote the following: ingredients in a device is proprietary information, and only the manufacturer can release that information to the public. Author Gail Hamilton lists ingredients for breast implants from Dow Corning trials in her book, and lists on the internet note ingredients like acetone, formaldehyde, xylene, epoxy resin, and lacquer thinner. Authors Barbara Stanistry and Carlos Mesa describe heavy metal toxicity from platinum in their books. Full recent ingredient lists cannot be found. Cosmetics, food, and cleaning supplies all must be labeled so consumers can make an educated decision about purchasing that product. We have medical devices, however, that do not provide that information. Surgeons can't ensure informed consent if they cannot even tell me what the product they are using is made of. Are certain chemicals also more likely to cause BIA, ALCL? Look at these terrible rashes and skin irritations of women in our groups. Is there any doubt that this is a bad reaction to their implants? On March 15th, the FDA commissioner put out a statement that finally acknowledges that some women have immune and inflammatory responses to breast implants. He admits that symptoms may not develop until years later, thus the need for long-term studies. His statement also says that the FDA can recall devices that are unsafe, require black box warnings, and require post-market studies. The patients that we represent today point out that the FDA has not upheld its duty to protect the patients. Patients and clinicians have the right to this data so that full information is readily available and so that potential pre-screening and diagnostic processes can be implemented. Symptoms of implant-related illness are not widely recognized. Breast implant illness is one of 22 terms that we have found to describe the exact same symptoms you will hear about today and tomorrow. It is not a medically recognized disease and therefore largely ignored by the medical community. Asia is the only term that currently has diagnostic criteria, and you will hear more about that later in the meeting. Not every woman with implants will develop unwanted symptoms. For those that do, however, it can be devastating physically, emotionally, financially. Some women develop symptoms immediately after augmentation or reconstruction. Others take several years. I have a slide above that mentions quite a few of the most common symptoms that women complain of. Many women with breast implant illness do not realize the symptoms could be caused by their implants. They go from specialist to specialist without any real answers to explain their concerns. They are told they are crazy or made to feel that way and advised to seek psychiatric help. We are ordinary women. We are educated. We are mothers, sisters, wives, and daughters, and we are suffering. Some are ignored and laughed at. Some are suffering financial strain and marital stress. Some are having difficulty raising their children. Many are angry at and feel defeated by a system that has failed them. This could be someone close to you, your family member, or your coworker. I can tell you quite honestly, I never believed this would happen to me. This isn't the life that I pictured for myself. I didn't anticipate spending countless hours educating, advocating for, and listening to women. I didn't plan on working a full-time job that doesn't pay. Neither did many of the women in this room, but we do it. We do it because we don't want another woman to suffer. This collage is just a small representation of the thousands of women who are harmed. Please keep in mind that each of them matters. Doesn't the upcoming generation of women deserve better? These are some of the things that women show us every day. These are examples of ruptures, and these are from women that gave us permission to share. More examples of rashes and skin manifestations. Most of these go away when removed, when the breast implants are removed. These are contaminated implants. The top left shows discolored saline. The second shows contaminants within the implant that look like mold. The bottom shows contamination within the interior of a silicone implant. The far right is debris floating within the saline implant. It was later found to be aspergillus. This is from my dear friend and one of my co-founders. Chandra had a fulfilling and active career that was ruined by her breast implants. The implant at time of removal was not even whole. It's torn and appears to only have a portion of it left. Chandra couldn't make this trip, but she's been a leader to our cause. A Netherlands study in 2014 compared women there to implant patients at Baylor College of Medicine from 30 years earlier. There was no difference in their symptoms. Despite innovation in implant manufacturing, patients were still complaining of the exact same issues. There is, however, a difference in the design of the products. The components have changed. How has this affected the percentage of women harmed by implants? Women who are sick have not been adequately studied. What are our commonalities? Is there a genetic predisposition to disease or a family history of autoimmune disease? Are we seeing an incidence in birth defects to women who have children and are breastfeed while they have implants? We need a comparison of women who are sick with silicone and saline implants to women who have never had an implantable device. We are currently working on a patient-driven registry to address just these issues, and the National Center for Health Research has started a similar project. We need researchers to study the issues that we think are important, not just the questions that the clinicians want to address. Social media awareness. There are over 170 groups and communities devoted to breast implant problems just on Facebook, and multiple websites devoted to the same awareness. The largest Facebook group now has over 70,000 members, and it's growing exponentially every day. Our BIA-ALCL patient group is also growing significantly, with women who are desperately seeking answers. We have a clinician patient group devoted to bridging the gap between patients diagnosed with BIA-ALCL and doctors. These are women coming together globally with the same concerns and same symptoms. As told by Dr. Edward Melmed, these women didn't just meet in a coffee shop and make this up. The feeling of finding a community where someone understands how you are feeling is indescribable. You've found the piece to your puzzle and you want to shout it from the rooftops. We are a family, we are a support system, we lift each other, we listen when no one else will. It's a worldwide advocacy effort. More needs to be done to ensure patient safety is not being overlooked because of profit. We need the FDA to do more. Preemption. Harmed patients cannot hold manufacturers accountable. Because of a Supreme Court decision, patients who are harmed by Class 3 devices such as breast implants can't hold the manufacturers legally accountable. Women who have become victims of breast implants have little to no recourse against dangerous devices because the Supreme Court stated that if the FDA says a PMA is safe, it is safe. Manufacturers have been given nearly absolute immunity. I'm here to point out very clearly today that this is not a litigation-driven movement. We can't seek our day in court. There is no monetary gain for myself or for these women. In fact, most of us end up with financial instability because of our situation. Medical debt, loss of income, disability, with no financial recourse to compensate us for medical expenses, lost wages, or anything else. Women who developed ALCL are offered $7,500 from the implant manufacturer, but that doesn't make up for the thousands on thousands of dollars in medical bills to treat a potentially lethal cancer. The women that are coming forward are sick. They're desperate to return to a healthy state of living. They are not here because of litigation compensation. Flaws in mandated studies. The FDA has required post-approval studies for breast implants as part of their PMA requirements. These studies have been flawed and incomplete and should not be considered reliable. Moreover, the failure of the breast implant manufacturers to complete the PMA required studies provides the FDA the ability to rescind the PMA and basically take away their right to market and sell the implants. Women who were supposed to be a part of these studies were not followed up with or were completely dropped. Some of these women had symptoms that would have been caught in data collection had the studies followed through for the complete 10 years. Some of these women developed lymphoma that would have been documented. We've heard from women who were told that their surgeon was no longer a study participant or told by the manufacturer that the study would not be continued. We've also heard from women who were completely dropped after reporting symptoms. What other data are we missing because these mandated studies were not finished? Here are a couple of statements by women we've heard from. I was enrolled in a 10-year study in September 2009. November 2015, 6 years into the study, I received notification that changes were being made. At this point, all follow-up appointments and questionnaires were ceased. 10-year study, but they blew me off after third year. Year 2, I reported a little bit of fatigue, skin issues, and year 3, the office no longer had a staff member assigned to the study. And year 4, they did not return my calls. Some mandated studies have been terminated. These studies were to look at rare events like lymphoma, cervical cancer, etc. The CDRH sent letters to the manufacturers in 2013 warning of possible revocation of their PMA if studies were not completed. It happened again this month. FDA officials told us in a previous meeting that they had the power to revoke a PMA but have never done so. If the FDA does not hold the manufacturer accountable and the legal system does not either, who will? To expand more, we need to look at what is being said by the manufacturers. There is a possibility of risks yet unknown, which in the future could be determined to be associated with breast implants. The study size needed to conclusively rule out a risk of connective tissue disease among women with silicone gel breast implants would need to be very large. It doesn't say it's been ruled out. Literature reports have also been made associating silicone breast implants with various rheumatological signs and symptoms, such as fatigue, exhaustion, joint pain and swelling, muscle pain and cramping, tingling, numbness, weakness, and skin rashes. Studies on the effects of children and breastfeeding has not been done. From the IDEAL pamphlet, the long-term safety and effectiveness of breast implants have not been studied. The IDEAL implant has not been studied for use in breast reconstruction. But do our patients fully understand that these statements are being made? This is my family. I gave birth to all of my children while I had breast implants. I breastfed the first two. My oldest two have birth defects and chronic health conditions. There is a level of guilt that we face as patients, wondering, did my implants play a role in my children's health? The fact is, we don't know, but we need to. Would I have made the same choice knowing what I know now? Absolutely not. I own my decision. I take responsibility for my choice. My choice should have been made, though, with more information. My doctor should have discussed the unknowns in depth. The studies have not been long or large enough to tell us how often a woman gets sick from breast implants. So why are patients being treated as if their conditions and concerns are absurd? Why are women being sent to psychiatrists instead of addressing a potential issue that has yet to be recognized by the medical community? The FDA needs to be more open-minded about what is known and unknown about the risks of implants and to encourage physicians to do the same. Only then will patients be informed of the risks of breast implants. This letter from Mentor to a patient in our community shows how the manufacturer is basically ignoring any accountability. It says, in part, breast implants should not be considered lifetime implants due to the inherent nature of silicone implant procedures and potential individual physiological reactions. It says this should be a decision between the physician and the patient. In no event shall Mentor be liable to you or anyone else for any decision made or action taken by you in reliance of such information. Is informed consent thorough enough? We ask surgeons to step up and do what's right. First, do no harm. Help us to hold these manufacturers accountable and demand that they develop a product that is scientifically proven to be safer in long-term trials. Adverse event data is misleading. Manufacturers, physicians, and patients can report adverse symptoms to the FDA. We encourage our women to report directly. Recent scrutiny of safety has brought about concerns over data. From 2002 to 2017, manufacturers were provided exemptions to reporting via medical device report, MDR. These manufacturers instead submitting using the alternative summary report. ASRs are typically submitted on a quarterly basis and can contain dozens to thousands of adverse events in one report. These reports are not transparent to the public. In early 2017, the FDA changed its policy. By July of 2017, the reports that had been previously submitted in ASR began arriving to the FDA in MDR. This allowed the public to have access to the thousands of reports that had previously been unavailable. So from January 2017 to October of 2018, there were at least 17,000 individual MDRs submitted to the FDA, according to Device Events. Prior to this, patients and providers who sought to identify safety data would not have been able to see the true number of adverse events. We keep hearing that our problems went away after the 90s. They never went away. The data wasn't visible to the patients or the doctors. It's deceptive. It's not fair. Risk of cancer. Over the next couple of days, you will have the chance to hear 3-minute speeches from 9 to 10 North American patient advocates. I encourage you to pay attention to each of their unique stories and messages about their journeys of getting diagnosed with BIA-ALCL. We strongly believe that patient real-life experience is paramount to the education and understanding of this emerging disease. That is why it is important to consider a patient representative on your breast implant advisory team. This is BIA-ALCL. breast implant-associated anaplastic large cell lymphoma. The upper left is the typical presentation of swelling. The upper right is an example of a scar capsule mass. The lower right is the aspirated fluid from a breast seroma, the most common presentation. The bottom left is Terry, who you will hear from later. You will hear more about this disease from the women themselves, but I want to mention that we started a patient support group in early 2016. By July, we had 10. Now we have over 160 diagnosed women in the group. These ladies have a clearly defined disease. Most of us don't. The thing is, we all face harm from the same devices. Whether we augment or reconstruct, whether it's implant-related illness or cancer, we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for breast implants. It is our understanding that one of the most paramount obligations you have as an agency is to make sure that the risks of a medical device do not outweigh the benefits. I'm going to highlight some reasons why the number of cases of BIA-ALCL is likely grossly underestimated and why textured implants and expanders should be removed from the U.S. market. A high majority of women who have implants are not aware of BIA-ALCL. Most symptoms, pain, change in shape, are thought to be part of initial complications. The long-standing message that breast implants are the most studied device on the market, so there is presumption that they are safe. Mammograms cannot consistently detect masses within the scar capsule. Often labs and radiologists miss the diagnosis because it is misunderstood and considered rare, and errors are being made. BIA-ALCL cannot be seen during surgery, with the exception of the mass. Often labs and radiologists miss the diagnosis because it is misunderstood. I already read that, I'm sorry. Please take the time to fully understand the obstacles to a BIA-ALCL diagnosis and do not buy in to the dangerous narrative that BIA-ALCL is an extremely rare and easily curable disease without giving such statements the full and robust scrutiny that all women with implants deserve. We do want to thank the FDA for your alert to healthcare providers as a result of our request from our last call to action from our meeting with you in September of 2018. It has helped to increase patient awareness. Breast implant-associated anaplastic large cell lymphoma is a man-made cancer that theoretically can be eradicated by the removal of textured breast implants and expanders from the market. A joint call to action by patients includes the following: mandatory, standardized, informed consent. Mandate that BIA-ALCL and implant-related illness risk be communicated through a patient-surgeon checklist and a black box warning. Request patient representation on the breast implant advisory team. We are asking for 2 representatives, one for reconstructive and one for augmentation. Patients are not being warned, and they need to play a role in decision-making. Compliance from manufacturers reporting confirmed BIA-ALCL cases, and a penalty for noncompliance. We need accountability from the manufacturers. Use your maximum authority towards physicians and institutions to notify patients with textured implants about BIA-ALCL. Although we understand that the FDA regulates medical devices and not physicians, there is a responsibility because it has been approved by your governing body. Therefore, your maximum authority should drive this call to action, and patient advocates are willing to assist with this. Mandate studies for confirmed cases of BIA-ALCL, industry funded, and make it public. There is no current post-market study to monitor the women diagnosed, and recurrence of this disease is being seen in our patient group. Change the incident narrative to emerging. Ban textured implants or request a voluntary moratorium. I don't believe we should remove all implants from the market. That's my personal opinion. Patients do need options, but we do need to be able to offer the patients the safest option available. There are smooth implants and smooth expanders. Does the benefit of textured outweigh the risk? Ask that question of any lady in this room who has BIA-ALCL or a family member who has lost a loved one, and I am sure the answer would be no. Increase transparency in materials used in breast implants. Maintain individual adverse event reporting. and hold the manufacturers accountable for unfinished and flawed studies. If you don't hold them accountable, who will? We again want to thank the FDA for increasing their patient engagement. We appreciate the opportunity to voice our concerns. We want to continue open dialogue and continue to offer our assistance in any way possible. I hope that you face the next 2 days with open ears and hearts. Patients are being harmed. You've heard us, and it's your duty to protect us. Thank you.